Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Wow. Thank you for Macmillan Learning. All right, because we have a lot to get through today, we're going to go ahead and get started. If you'd like, feel free to put your name, what you teach, and where you're from in the Q&A, as we'd love to know when folks come from all over. So thank you for joining us today for our webinar, More Than Meets the AI, How Chatbots Can Enhance Your Critical Thinking Skills. My name is Ashley. I'm the Executive Product Marketing Manager here at Macmillan Learning, and I'll be facilitating alongside a great team of experts that are sitting at the top of your screen. You're here because you're ready to deep dive into AI's potential to transform student support in your course. As we've mentioned before, this is a hands-on workshop. This is not passive. So be prepared to engage with real concepts from your course using our AI student tutor. At the end of this webinar, you'll receive a follow-up email from us containing resources and additional information on what you've just learned today. Before we begin, we want to make sure that everyone has access to all the necessary tools. So if you don't already have an Achieve account, please take a moment now to sign up so that you can fully participate in today's activities. If you're having issues or challenges creating an account with Achieve, just drop us a note in the Q&A section and someone will be there to help you. All right. Today, we are graciously joined by our panel of discipline experts, starting with Dr. Justin Wolfers, Professor of Economics and Public Policy, also an AI expert, Dr. Jim Morris, Professor of Biology, Dr. Darren Starnes, Statistics expert, teacher, and consultant, and Dr. Kevin Revelle, Chemistry Professor and author, so all STEM. Our facilitators will guide everyone through the session. We won't get to go through every single name at this point, but we do have a lot of Macmillan Learning folks ready and willing to help you out. So we'll go over the agenda real quick. Our goal today is to show how AI chatbots, when used ethically and thoughtfully, can enhance student engagement and critical thinking through proven techniques like Socratic questioning and productive struggle. After a brief intro, we'll break into discipline-specific sessions where you can actively interact with the AI student tutor designed for your discipline. So be sure to have all of your ducks in a row, have your computer ready. And with that, I'd love to turn it over to Dr. Wolfers, our economics expert, to talk through AI's roles in critical thinking and teaching.
Terrific. Hopefully, I just shared my screen. So
you did. It looks beautiful.
The good thing, why I go to The Economist at a moment like this, it's because we economists have a way of thinking about technological change and technological revolutions. And you might know an economist or two, and you'll know that they're pretty unsentimental folks. So when the world changes, we simply say, out with the new. Out with the old. There are some types of work, they're just going to disappear. And we say, in with the new. There's going to be, instead of buggy drivers, there's going to be taxi drivers. Instead of buggy drivers, there'll be Uber programmers and so on. And so I'm going to take exactly the same approach to our field of higher education. Out with the old. What's going to disappear now that we're talking about not the horse and buggy, but generative AI? Well, I'm going to make the case to you over the next few minutes that high stakes at-home assessment is dead. AI-fueled plagiarism killed it. So the way we're used to doing business and the way we got used to doing it during the pandemic is over. In with the new, this is the more optimistic part of the talk where I'm going to suggest there are new tools. It means we can do cool new things. Our job is to figure out what that is. I'm going to show you one example of that today and let you know that you're part of a broader project here. I'm one of many Macmillan authors on this call, working with Macmillan's technologists to try and produce even more tools. Let me start with out with the old. What do I mean here? There's a huge challenge to the way that we've all been doing business that's being presented by AI. The challenge is simply this. I'm going to make 3 points here. First is your students are already using AI. Now, I couldn't find good data on the use of AI by college-going status, but I have it by age. And so you can see among those 18 to 29, pretty much a quarter of all students are using it at least once a day, and around half are using it at least several times a week. That's all 18 to 29-year-olds. I suspect that once we zero in, if we could, with these data on the college student population, it's going to be even greater. So your students are using this tool whether they tell you they are or not. Here's some data that, let's be honest and not use the word data too seriously, but it's the best numbers I could find. This comes from a survey from study.com, which is hardly the Gallup organization. But nonetheless, it shows that 90% of undergraduates back 2 years ago were already aware of ChatGPT. 89% of you had used it to help with homework assignments. 53% had used it to help write an essay, and 48% of them had used it for an at-home test or quiz. This survey was taken in January 2023, back when almost no instructors were telling students it was okay to use ChatGPT. So in many cases here, they're admitting that they were using generative AI even when they probably weren't allowed to. The second point I want to make is that ChatGPT is better than you think. One of the things that OpenAI have done is they've taken a bunch of different tests and they've had ChatGPT basically sit the test. The top graph here shows you that GPT 4.0, when it sits the bar exam to become a lawyer, does better than 90% of all law students. When it takes, say, the GRE verbal test, which most of us had to take to go to graduate school, it does better than 99% of all people who did that. And if you look at college level courses, there's a standard economics exam called the TUS. It did better than 99% of all undergraduates, freshmen doing Macro 101, and better than 91% of all of those doing Micro 101. We see that when it does the AP exam, it does better than all students sitting the AP exam across a variety of subjects. Point is, when it comes to undergraduate level work, ChatGPT already, and here I'm talking about 4.0, is better than most undergraduates you'll come across. In fact, there was a student at Harvard who decided that what she would do is have ChatGPT do a bunch of essays, and she submitted them to her instructors. ChatGPT at Harvard got an A- in microeconomics, an A in macroeconomics, an A in the American presidency, an A in conflict resolution, although it did poorly in intermediate Spanish, earning just a B. But the instructors at Harvard suggested that it did a very, very nice job in each of these cases. So ChatGPT is already doing well enough to be earning mostly A's at Harvard. The third point I want to make is, and maybe this is why you're here, I think for many of us, and one of the ways I got into this, our universities are giving us bad advice. Our Center for Teaching and Learning came out and talked to us in the economics department, and I think the advice we got was mostly terrible. What's going on here, and I think it's simply that our students are way ahead of us, of the faculty, on how to use this tool. What I was taught when I did teacher training on this stuff, I was taught all sorts of shortcomings. I was taught that ChatGPT doesn't write well, that it writes in a fairly formulaic way. I was taught that it was unreliable and it hallucinates facts and citations. I was taught that it makes mathematical errors. I was taught that it's not up to date and so it only knows what's going on through to 2023. I was taught that it can't read graphs or images and that computers can't reason. That all makes sense if you understand that what's going on is the universities are looking for ways to defend our self-image. We, of course, as scholars, want to see ourselves as unique and not engaged in the ugly robotic work of computers. So we go looking for the shortcomings, and the thing is, when you look for shortcomings, you find them. Now, a different approach is the one that our students take. Our students instead are looking for solutions. They have a tool and they want to make it work. They understand that, yes, ChatGPT often gives formulaic responses, but if you simply follow up with a prompt that says, sharpen that essay, or write like Hemingway, or write like the New York Times, it will write in a much more vigorous way. Yes, it can hallucinate facts, but there's a single parameter deep within the system called temperature. And if you turn that temperature down to 0 and train your AI appropriately, you can virtually eliminate hallucinations. Yes, ChatGPT makes math errors, but if you say use Python It will literally pull up the Python language and run a little program to make sure it no longer makes math errors. It is true ChatGPT is not up to date, but Bing AI is. It is true that the early versions of ChatGPT couldn't read graphs or listen to voices, but ChatGPT 4 Omni can. And while it's true that no computer can reason, the latest version that just came out from OpenAI does a remarkably good impression of being able to reason. What we see in each of these cases is that our students don't see problems, they are learning to become prompt engineers and finding solutions. So I think many of us are getting poor advice because our universities are looking for what this tool can't do. And there's a lot of confirmation bias. When you go looking for something to fail, you'll find it. Our students, though, have a problem-saving, can-do attitude about the whole thing. So that's the negative case, that the way we've been taught, if your university has told you it's okay to keep doing business the way you were, your university is probably wrong. All of our students now have access to a computer at home that is producing work at a level that would earn an A at almost all of our institutions. As a result, high stakes at-home assessment is dead. Simply put, students have a way of cheating that is cheap, accurate, and undetectable. People who tell you they can detect AI are exactly wrong. It's easy for sophisticated students to beat that. So we're now back to the future, back to the era of the Blue Book. But we're also moving forward. It's not just that this is a threat to the old way of doing things. We now have new ways of doing things as well. And that's what's so exciting about today's seminar and where we're going to spend most of our time. We've got new tools and we can do new things and we can learn to teach in new and different ways. Let's go there. When ChatGPT first came onto the scene, Adrian Wooldridge wrote a column that said, Oxford and Cambridge can save American universities. We simply need to make education more like what they do over at Oxford, where he went to school. The problem with that is this is what an Oxford tutorial looks like. You literally write an essay and go and meet one-on-one with your tutor. The problem with it, with lovely form of education, and as your tutor drills you, you can be absolutely sure that there's no cheating going on with ChatGPT. The problem is I teach 500 students. So what that means is I could introduce this system, but I would need to go to my dean and ask for 499 teaching assistants. You know how that's going to go. But there's still the kernel of something really interesting here, that what we need to do is personalize education. And so really what Adrian Wooldridge was suggesting was personalization at scale, that we have hundreds of tutors meeting with hundreds of students one-on-one, meeting them where they are, drilling deeply into what they know. And this technology allows us to do it. But it allows us to do it, of course, rather than hiring 499 assistants. I talked to my good friends who are AI coders at Macmillan, and they come up with new ways of me personalizing at scale. That's the big idea. So personalization at scale, I think, is a really valuable way of thinking, what is the new teaching opportunity here? The AI allows us to personalize because it's a computer, we can still do it when we're teaching 500 students. Let me tell you, I'm an economist, so we talk about numbers a lot, and we talk about numbers with dollar signs a lot. Let me tell you how big I think this opportunity is. These are just illustrative numbers. Don't take them seriously. I just want you to see the orders of magnitude. One thing we economists have figured out is that undergraduates out-earn folks who don't go to college. Folks who do get a degree out-earn those who don't by about $1 million over the course of their lifetime. And in fact, we think that education causes you to earn $1 million more. Well, if you go to school for 4 years, that must mean that you're raising your future earnings by $250,000 for each of those 4 years. And each of those years is 2 semesters, so therefore you're raising your future earnings by $125,000 per semester. In each semester, you're probably taking 4 classes, so that means that sitting in just on my class or your class raises your students' future earnings by $30,000. That's a powerful thought. If we can make you 5% more effective, just 5%, and to be clear, that's a very, very small number. Most of the studies examining how much AI can enhance the productivity of workers comes up with numbers of 20, 30, or 40%. Let's be very conservative and say, if I can make you 5% more effective at what you're doing, then you will deliver $1,500 more value to each of your students. Now, of course, if you're like me and you teach 500 students, that means you will deliver $750,000 more value per course that you teach per year. And if you teach 2 courses a year, that's $1.5 million. If you teach 4 courses a year, that's $3 million. Let's think about it from the economics, from my department chair's perspective. I teach 500 students a week. If AI can save me just 1 minute on each of those students, that'll save me 500 minutes a week. If the university values my time at a low rate, say $60 an hour, then that means that the department will save $8,000 per year if it uses AI. Again, the point here is simply to say the stakes here are huge if you can figure out how to effectively harness this tool. So what are we trying to do with personalization at scale? The idea here is a Socratic tutor. We're going to demonstrate this in just a moment. But the thing I want you to remember is an important rule from economics. We call it the opportunity cost principle. We say when you think about eating a hamburger, think about what else you could be doing. It's not eating a steak, because if you didn't eat a hamburger, really you can only afford a piece of pizza. I want you to remember the same idea here. I'm not going to come to you and say that any AI tool is ever perfect, but your next best alternative is not a perfect teacher who's available to your students all day, every day. If you're at all like me, your next best alternative is your students would be visiting office hours of a pretty good teaching assistant. And I use a lot of my doctoral students in this role. My claim to you is as you start to dig into this tool, I want you to think to yourself, what would a really good doctoral student say at a moment like this? And then look at what the machine says. And I think there you'll find it's a really remarkable comparison. So let's think about what your ideal teaching assistant looks like. Ashley, how much longer did you want me to go for? Are we close? Should I stop here or keep going?
You know what? I think if you can wrap up in about 30 to 45 seconds, we'll be all good.
30 to 45 seconds. I just want to show you one cool thing.
Of course.
So your teaching assistant, she should be smart. Well, we know that OpenAI, that ChatGPT is smart and knows all of this. They should be adaptable. And we can train the AI on your course material so they'll use your language and your frameworks your way. And here's the fun part. You might think to yourself, well, the thing machines can't do or don't do is they're not empathetic. Well, there was a wonderful study where they asked a bunch of doctors to diagnose a bunch of conditions. Well, the first thing they did is they sent the doctor's responses off to a panel of medical experts. They sent the same request off to ChatGPT and then sent those responses off to the same panel of experts. Interestingly, ChatGPT offered higher quality medical advice than most physicians. That's not the cool thing. Here's the cool thing. You might think that what the physicians have is the human touch. But my brother's a doctor, and I got to tell you, he's not the most empathetic guy in the world. My doctor's not the most empathetic. And in fact, if you go and grade the responses of actual physicians, it turns out only 5% of them were rated as being empathetic. If you look at ChatGPT's responses, 45% of them were regarded as empathetic. Look, I don't know what field you're coming from, but I'm coming from economics. We're pretty good at economics. We're not so good at social skills. I suspect we're a lot like physicians. And so maybe using these tools will actually create a form of tutoring that's even more empathetic. And so that's, I think, part of the promise. And here's the most fun story. We had a student, this comes from our actual logs, who says to our AI tutor, "It's late at night, I need to go to sleep, but I should do this now." The AI responds empathetically, "I understand you're feeling tired, but it's important to get a good night's sleep. How about we continue this tomorrow when you're feeling refreshed?" The student says, "Okay." And 12 hours later, I swear, on the chat logs, we get the student who just says to the AI, "I'm back." And the AI tutor, who's done a wonderful job of empathy, says, "Welcome back. I hope you're feeling refreshed. Shall we continue working on the next chemical reaction?" So that's what all of this looks like in theory. Let me pause here so that we can start to move towards showing you what it looks like in your field.
Thank you so much, Justin. That was very, very insightful. And just a reminder, too, to all of our educators on the call, treating AI as your brilliant TA is a really amazing way to utilize AI. Now the part that you're all very excited about, the actual breakout group. So it's time to roll up our sleeves and dive into the hands-on portion. In just a moment, we'll break out into discipline-specific groups. So each group will have a facilitator and one of our subject matter experts. You'll work directly with the AI student tutor using real concepts from your course. So I encourage you to take notes and think about how you might incorporate this into your teaching practice. Now, in just a second, Leslie is going to open our breakouts. We encourage you to either choose the discipline that you teach in or choose the discipline that you are most interested in seeing the AI tutor perform in. Go for it, Leslie. Welcome back, everybody. Leslie, are we back yet? I might be talking to
Oh,
you.
we're being kicked out. All right.
Okay.
Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back, everyone. Sorry to make y'all leave when things are just getting good. I had a feeling. Anywho, all right, everyone. We have about 9 minutes left. What I wanted to do is to open the floor for any questions that maybe have not gotten answered in your last breakout group. So feel free to blow up the Q&A. We will find the best person to find an answer for your question. Let's see here. Okay. All right.
Joshua,
I'm glad to hear that everyone had an amazing time.
I was just going to ask, Joshua Parham messaged something that he typed out a total onslaught of discouraged and ready to give up tirade. Joshua, do you want to share what that experience was like and what feedback it gave you when you did that?
I just gave you permission to talk if you want to come off mute and share.
Thank you. Thank you, Leslie.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so well, I've been teaching for a while. I've heard quite a few discouraged comments come my way from students, so I just kind of threw them all at the AI tutor to see how it would respond, and it was pretty good. It was encouraging and gentle and, kind of, well, okay, yeah, you're struggling with this. Let's not focus on, past mistakes. And okay, well, for this particular question, it was counting electron sets. It was like, let's just break it down one thing at a time. How many bonds do you see? How many lone pairs do you see? And it was very, yeah, it was very gentle is the word that I would use to describe. It was pretty good. Yep. I threw in some, yeah, but what's the points? I'm already failing. It's too late. Why am I doing all this? And it was like, don't worry about that. We got you. Come back around. It was pretty good. Yep.
Sure. What I like
Nice.
about that is it kind of feels like there's a little bit of Ted Lasso inside it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I
For
sometimes
sure.
feel like my biggest problem as a teacher is my personality. And fortunately, it's a lot friendlier than I am.
Thank you so much for sharing, Joshua. I'm sorry, I thought that was just a great comment. So Leslie, Ashley, you guys want to take it to Q&A?
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I need to apologize. All right, let's see here. A question. It looks like Jacqueline's answering most of these in the Q&A, but here's a really good one from Molly. Is there a way to just play with this in my own courses that have the AI tutor enabled?
I was typing an answer, but I will say it out loud. Absolutely. If you have access inside of Achieve to any majors biology course, general or introductory chemistry course, any of our economics courses or statistics courses, you have the ability to turn it on in that sampled course that's available to you. And if you don't have access, because that's not your discipline, please go sample yourselves one of those courses. Maybe one of our marketing friends can put the instructions in the chat for you as to how to do that. And then you'll be able to turn it on in that sampled course and play with it. Coming very soon, you will also be able to try it in a very limited amount on our website.
And Jacqueline, just to add to that, you'll be getting a follow-up email as soon as this meeting is over with instructions for how to sample a course for yourself. So you'll have access to that as soon as we're done here today.
Yeah.
We have a
And
question
well, hold on. There was a follow-up about student perspective. You will be, today you were enrolled as a student in the course. That's a great question. Once you get your sampled course, if you don't have one already, open any assessment style activity inside of the course, and then click on student preview. So those of you who are in the biology group, you saw me click that button a few times. Student preview will take you in, and then you'll have full access exactly as students do. Sorry, Ashley, you were gonna.
Jacqueline. No, you're good. A popular question. Is there one for psychology?
We are currently doing some testing with research methods. So if you teach research methods and you're interested in trying it out, I will say respond to the email that you're going to get from Leslie or Ashley, and we can see about getting access for you to try it. Specifically, research methods. That's the only psychology we have it available in for testing right now.
Thanks. All right, we might have time for 2 more questions. We have a really good one. What is the difference between Achieve AI and ChatGPT?
I'll answer from a technical perspective, but I think it would be great to hear from our authors on this one as well. So speaking from a technical perspective, our tutor is built on OpenAI. So it is using essentially ChatGPT models. And then we have given it the context of the question, the solution, all of that information so students don't have to go out to ChatGPT. So that's technically how it is different. If one of our authors wants to speak to maybe how it's used differently or the pedagogy, putting you all on the spot.
The pedagogy is completely different, and that's really a key thing. So if a student asks a question to ChatGPT, it'll just give the answer, and the AI tutor is trained not to give the answer, and that's one of the primary things, primary differences and primary ways it supports learning rather than undermines learning. And the other way, and it's different, is in the role of hallucinations. Jacqueline might have to say more, but because it's trained on the question, that's where it's going first, and it's going to our material first before it goes out. So the probability of hallucination or making up something completely out of the blue is really minimized in the AI tutor, where in ChatGPT, in spite of what Justin said, there is still a chance for a hallucination.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, I think part of what happens then is a pedagogical alignment. So, for example, I was playing with this earlier and pulled a question for you chemists, a Hess's law question, and I was really pleased to see the response following exactly the sort of pedagogical approach that the textbook does, because it's pulling from the text. And so, I thought to myself, oh, this is exactly how I would have said it, and then realized, oh yeah, I did say it. But because it's pulling from that, and so that's giving you sort of a pedagogical unity, which I think you would not get in the Wild West of ChatGPT, where it's pulling from anywhere.
Thanks, Kevin. Another really good question for the panel. I am trying one of the study sessions. Does the AI tutor not work with those?
Sorry, that you're trying one of the what? Does it say?
Study sessions.
I'm not sure exactly what you're looking at. It will work with anything that is a homework mode assessment, excuse me. So if you, the screen should look like it looked like when your group demoed it for you. If it looks any different than that, then no, it will not work. So if you're in like Learning Curve or Smart Worksheets, it will not work. And then also if you happened to open something that has maybe a quiz mode attached to it, so the grading setting is in quiz mode, then it would not work in there.
We have a couple questions in that before in the last minute. It's, will I be able to see the conversations made between my students and the AI chatbot for individual questions? And Alina also asked a similar question. Can instructors get a summary analysis feedback from the tutor on students' problems? Jacqueline, you want to take that one?
Currently, the instructor has no visibility, but that's something we're really interested in learning where we can improve that and what information y'all would want. So I think there will probably be some sort of follow-up, or if you have thoughts, please throw them in the chat for us of what exactly you would want to see. That's something we want to know. It's a formative tool. It's built for students for their own use. We want them to feel safe, but we also want to give you as instructors visibility into how and when they're using it, if that's something you need. So please absolutely share that with us in the chat. It's something we're actively investigating now.
Right. Thank you, Jack. Phoenix, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's one question Stephanie asked, and I think it might help everyone else too. How can I sign up to preview this and so they can see it themselves? So that's a fantastic way to end the question in this webinar. Leslie, Ashley, you guys want to take that one?
Yeah, we'll be sending you an email here like next hour or so with instructions for how to sample the course. As Jacqueline said, if you are outside of these 4 course areas, make sure that if you want to see the AI tutor, you're looking in econ. I'll send you the list. I'm not going to ramble it off, but you'll see the list of course areas that do have AI tutor. So if you are not in one of those disciplines, just make sure that you request access for one of those course areas so that you can see it in action and take your time and really play with it on your own.
All right. Thanks all. Now we will be sending this follow-up email directly from our personal inboxes. If you have any questions, please feel free to just respond to the email that you get today with your questions. So Emilio, make sure that you drop that question in that follow-up email that we'll send to you within the next hour or so. So thank you so much for coming and spending an hour of your time with us today. We understand it's not easy to find all the time. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Look for an email from us, and I will be here for probably the next 3 to 5 minutes in case there are any questions or any concerns. Be happy to address.
And I will just add, we will also be sending an email with the recording, any slides. Unfortunately, the breakout part is not able to be recorded, but Justin's intro and this kind of Q&A session at the end will be included.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.